Greetings, people of YouTube. This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another Smash related video. Today's video is going to focus on Smash Brothers Melee, a game that became one of the most popular games for Nintendo probably ever. Not only that, but it probably sold the most units for the Nintendo GameCube ever, out of all other games. For the Nintendo GameCube that had been made. Just as a reminder, this Band-Aid that I have on my face is for a bug bite that I had. So if you're wondering why you see this Band-Aid, just understand that's the reason why. For those that haven't watched my previous N64 related video, it should be in the description below, or it should be in the off to the side in the recommended videos. But regardless, let's move on to Smash Bros. Melee and get into this here and now and get ready to fight. Okay. Smash Bros. Melee was a game that was released, I believe, 2003 or 2002. It was the second game in the franchise, and originally and brought in lots of new characters, somewhere around like 20 plus characters now after the previous 12. Such characters such as Bowser, Peach, as previously mentioned, were supposed to be in it. Finally got introduced, and was well worth it because of their designs. Now looked amazing. Other characters were brought in too. There was such characters as Pichu was brought in. Mr. Game & Watch was brought in. Who else was brought in? Mr. Game & Watch was brought in. Mewtwo was brought in. Roy was brought in. Marth was brought in. Trying to think for a second here. Who else was brought in? There was a lot of characters. Oh, right. There was Young Link. And there was a couple of, there was Ice Climbers that were brought in. There were a number of other characters, but overall, you get the point. There were lots of new characters introduced. A lot of these characters would appear again in future installments of the game. Not all, but a lot. Which characters wouldn't? We'll have to find out. As time goes on. But for now, let's continue with this video. So, as I said before, all those characters were introduced, plus a good amount extra, and believe me, the Smash Bros. Franchise is massive to begin with. So having more characters is just like it adds to the chaos of the game. What other elements were introduced to the game? Well, there was a well done cutscene with improved graphics, really showing off the capabilities of the console with the intro for the game. Believe me, if you haven't seen the intro, or if you don't own a GameCube, or you don't and you don't own Smash Bros. Melee, or just in general you haven't seen the intro, please, I beg you, look it up. I will probably put a link to the intro down in the description, but I may actually show a snippet of it in this video. But please look either in the description or look it up for yourself. It's excellent. And anyway, let's continue. Okay, so what else is there to say? Well, what things were brought back from the game? Well, for one thing, Classic Mode did return. And so pretty much the majority of the modes that were in the original N64 one were kept in. What things were changed, you may wonder? Well, for one thing, there was like majority of most classic moves were kept in. Target Smash was kept in and improved here and there as needed. There was also they kept in the versing one other opponent and also teaming up to fight off two other opponents. They kept in they kept in fighting yourself in a metal form, or just Metal Mario or whatever. And they also kept in Master Hand, as well as a handful of other things that that appeared here and there, as well as a trophy area that was unique to that game. Speaking of trophies, this game really introduced a lot of them and really made people look at the franchise in a whole other way and have a way to understand the history of the franchise. And believe me, there was a lot of history to go by. Lots of things were brought in through trophies just to really show off the entire history of Nintendo and several other franchises and several other and many of the gaming franchises that are included in the game, as well as other games in general, and really gives you a sense of the entire history of Nintendo and really makes you appreciate the franchise as a whole. So, what else can I say about this game? Well, who else could I think of that was brought in? Never mind. Characters that were brought in. I'm not going to go into more characters that are brought in. I think I've covered the majority of them. There are some that I might have been missing. Oh yeah, I just remembered two. Zelda and Sheik. Obviously. And Ganondorf. Right. Sorry about that, guys. Yes, there were. Yes, so Legend of Zelda had a couple of characters that were brought in, and maybe now I should discuss a little bit about each of the about a bunch of the characters that were brought in. So, as I said before, yes, there were a number of characters from the Legend of Zelda franchise were introduced. You know, Zelda, Sheik, which became one character, later became two separate characters, but for now it was one character. Ganondorf, obviously the villain of the Legend of Zelda franchise, got his own character. Basically the equivalent of Captain Falcon, the only difference being is that he's slower, but he's more powerful. So, slower speed, less power, slower speed, more power, while Captain Falcon had greater speed, less power, but still very powerful. As far as other characters go, there was, as I said before, Ice Climbers was a duo character, which sadly for future installments, sadly for the most recent installments, was not able to be brought into the game again with the most recent 3DS and Wii U. Mainly for the 3DS, it was an issue because of the fact that the limitations of the system and how when programming two characters, when they would move, they wouldn't move together properly. So that caused issues, and just in general, the game would not be able to work very well. Not to mention the other thing is that they wanted to release the game at a certain point, and if they really spent a lot more time on it, I'm sure Ice Climbers would have been brought back in. But you have to consider this. It's one character. Could they bring Ice Climbers back eventually? Yes, they could bring Ice Climbers back for DLC, but let's not talk about that right now. Just wanted to mention that to you, explain why that is, because plenty of people still get very annoyed about the fact that they got rid of Ice Climbers. Just understand, it's not because that they didn't want Ice Climbers back. It's just that they couldn't put Ice Climbers back because of the fact that because of console limitations and just in general. Anyway, let's keep talking. What other characters were there? Well, Mr. Game Watch has become a staple character. He was meant to represent the classic gaming franchises, and ever since he's been introduced, there's always been a character that's meant to represent a certain console or icon. I will mention later. I'll mention other ones later, but you'll understand soon enough once I get to the future installments. But for now, he was meant to represent, obviously, the Game & Watch, which was an old console that basically looks like a Nintendo DS, but instead of being able to play multiple games, usually was limited to like one, if not two, one, and in some cases two games. Typically, it was just one. Usually, it was one. And so all of his moves were based off of each of those Game & Watch games. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. Who else was introduced that I said? Well, there's Pichu. Pichu basically is like Pikachu, only the difference being is that when Pichu uses the thunder attack, basically, his down special, he ends up hurting himself. Yeah, he hurts himself by using a down special. It's understand when characters, have like the heavy swords that deal knockback damage to them, like when some of the Fire Emblem characters charge up their swords and they go, what I'm talking about. Yes, that's understood. But having Pichu use but you see that's also a smash attack that has like flames coming out of it and there's fire around him. That's understood. Having a Pokemon not get injured by its own move makes absolutely no sense. No sense. Why would that make any sense? It doesn't, and that's something that everyone hates about Pichu. That's why sadly, not sadly, what am I saying? No one Pichu was basically Pikachu. The only difference being is that Pichu was smaller. Pichu hurt itself all the time, and just in general, it wasn't really good. So people really were just like, why was this character put in if it's just gonna hurt itself all the time? Because you want to know something? In other installments, it was understood why the characters would hurt themselves, but in this case, it's like there's no reason why a Pichu should hurt itself. Why? Whatever. I don't even understand that either. It's still very stupid. It's like the creativity, is it there? No, not really. Dr. Mario, another character I mentioned before. Basically, he's overall very much so similar to Mario. Big differences are the fact that his neutral special attack, which is Mario would be the fireballs, but in Dr. Mario's case, it's pills. That's one of the biggest differences in moves. What else was different? Taunts were changed up, and the other thing that was changed up would be would also be the overall power of the character. Overall, most people consider Dr. Mario to be a much more powerful version of Mario. I wouldn't say that that's not true. I like both of them a lot. Mario and Dr. Mario, they're both good in their own ways. Personally, it doesn't matter to me. I think that they're each excellent characters, and surprisingly enough, Dr. Mario got a chance to return, not in the next game, but in the game following that, which surprised most people. And originally he was meant to only be an extra skin for Mario, but they ended up making an extra character for him. No problem there. It's just that's just what they decided to do. Anyway, let's continue. What other characters were introduced? Let's think. Oh, right. Mewtwo. So Mewtwo was a Pokemon character that was introduced in this game. And Pokemon's Pokemon. So how many Pokemon characters are there right there? That's 3 right there, right? Pikachu, as I previously mentioned, Pichu, and Mewtwo. Those are the 3 major Pokemon characters that you could really play as at the time. And Mewtwo was like one of your final characters to get. Personally, for me, I always remember getting Mewtwo because when I was young and I tried to get Mewtwo, I did it in the dumbest way ever, which was I put myself in these ridiculous situations where I had to fight several stocks, and instead of having to do it a much faster way, just doing 99 live stock battles. Sadly for me, at that time, since I was too young to really know better, it took me forever, but if I had known better, it would have been a much faster process for me, and I wouldn't have had to wait like a year to get Mewtwo, but you get the point. I eventually got Mewtwo. It just took forever. What other things could I say about, what other character? But Mewtwo, back to Mewtwo. Mewtwo's the second Pokemon. Mewtwo was a Pokemon that was referred to as probably the most powerful Pokemon of its time, and everyone just loved Mewtwo. Probably one of the most powerful Pokemon to begin with, regardless of the fact that it was known for being powerful. Just in general, it was powerful. Was it the most useful fighter in the game? Not necessarily. It was a hard to use character. Its movements were a bit off, but recently around the time of Smash for the Wii U coming out, a little bit before that, it was confirmed that Mewtwo would be available in DLC soon enough. Not this year. Well, this year in May. So regardless of that, you get the point. Mewtwo is a character that will be available soon enough, and for me, I'm personally excited because I'm very interested to see what they did with him. For those that don't know, He was also available in Project M, which is a gaming franchise that I might even get into. I'm not sure yet. I'm sure I might go off into a tangent in my next review when I go into Brawl, but for now, you get the point. What other things can I say? So I've described most of these characters. There are a few that I mentioned that I was going to discuss that I didn't really want I didn't get into really. What characters am I missing? Well, there's Peach and there's Bowser. Peach, Peach was the princess. She has her own unique moveset. And she's become a pretty popular character. She's actually one of the best fighters ever. People used to think, oh, it's Peach. Why would anyone think that she's so good? No, she's actually very good. Her smash attacks are excellent, and her specials are pretty decent. She's actually a really good fighter. Bowser, much slower fighter, but pretty powerful, and he gets a lot of changes in later installments. But let's not jump ahead here. Okay, so what's next? So as I said before, Master Hand was kept in. But also, if you put it at a certain difficulty in classic mode, you could actually fight Crazy Hand, which is a version of Master Hand that was that's a lot more crazy, as the name says. His moves were a lot more spontaneous, unique, different, and really he stood out in a lot of different ways that made him look different from his counterpart Master Hand. There was a way to fight both of them in the in something called event mode, which I'll get into in a few seconds. Before that, let me continue with classic mode. The last thing I could say about classic mode was the fact that they also introduced, if you put it at the highest difficulty, you could fight off against Giga Bowser. Giga Bowser basically is Bowser. The only difference being is that he's gigantic, he's powerful, he's really hard to defeat, but people do it. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's possible. Anyway, continuing on with that, what else can I say? So the other things that were brought into this game was a trophy trophy game where you could basically get more trophies to add to your collection. Trophies became things that you could use to complete to become like a completionist and just complete all take and get all the trophies in the game possible, and it was good. What else could I say? They kept it in versus mode. Another thing that was on the same screen as classic mode was adventure mode. Adventure mode was basically a mode where you went through unique pathways, fought certain enemies, and it was very unique for its game. And it didn't have a story to it, but it was, a little bit of an adventure. Very, as the name implies. And it was fun. Very fun. Then there was All-Star Mode. All-Star Mode has become a pretty big staple in the game, pretty well known ever since this game. What it basically is that once you get all the characters in the game, you've unlocked that last character, which will be Mr. Game & Watch most likely. At that point, you unlock All-Star Mode. All-Star Mode basically means that you have the ability to fight, that you end up fighting every single character in the game. So you will be you choose a character. So let's just say I chose Mario. I'm going to fight off against every single character, including a copy of myself that will be, obviously of the second color or whatever. You get the point. So basically, you'll fight every single one of them. Then you may think to yourself, does that mean that you're stuck with one life? You have nothing to heal yourself? No. What happens is that you'll fight enemies. There will be screens in between that will allow you to heal up. You only have a certain amount of items to use to heal up. But hopefully, by the time that you get to that last fight, you'll be in a good enough situation where you can defeat the last group of enemies and be proud to know that you defeated All-Star Mode for that one character. You can beat it all with every single character. You'll unlock an achievement. It's all great. Try it if you haven't played Smash Brothers. As I mentioned previously with event mode. Event mode basically is this mode where you were put into certain situations where you have to do something specific to an event that's in the game, and in order to achieve something, there are 50 events in the game, I believe it was, and if you manage to get them all, then congratulations. If you haven't gotten them all, then try your best. It's worth it, and you know what? It's really fun. But believe me, I'll tell you this much right now, it is hard. So understand this now, that it can be a little bit of a struggle. It won't be the easiest thing in the world, but it shouldn't be impossible. I'll tell you this much early on, it shouldn't be too much of a problem, but get used to it. I won't say that if you struggle with it early on, it's a bad thing. Just keep practicing. I'm sure you'll get it eventually. What else can I say? So I've already said all that. They added more modes to versus mode. Basically, you can fight each other. Sadly, there was no online play, so you were very limited in regards to just having friends over, which was fine at the time. But they added in modes where you could choose. You can do coin battles where basically you and a group of friends, or just maybe yourself and another friend, fight each other and try to get the most coins by beating each other up. And it was pretty fun. There was also team battles. I don't remember specifically if they kept it in, if that was in N64 too, but basically you'd be teamed up with maybe one other person, or maybe two other teammates, and you'd fight someone else, or you'd fight two people. You do team battles. It depends on the situation. You can also turn it on friendly mode, where basically everyone, regardless of teams, could actually end up killing each other, even if you're on the same team. Really, most people tend to not want that, because it's much more risky, and most of the time you're going to end up killing your teammate, and it's not going to be fun. So most people tend to make sure that you can't hurt your teammate. So anyway, what else can I say? There's not all that much other than that I can say. The game is very fun. There's a lot to do in it, and if you haven't picked up a copy of it, and you have a Wii or you have a GameCube, definitely look into it. The pricing for it shouldn't be too expensive, and overall you'll have a blast playing it. It's very fun, and just in general, enjoy. Alright, again, this has been Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you our Smash Brothers Melee video. And next time we will discuss Smash Brothers Brawl, and I will hope to see you guys in that video. Alright, again, Crazy Samurai 71, I'm out.